In this lesson, we're going to discuss the power of the Pathfinder panel. If you'd like to follow along, go into the File menu to Open, and in the Sample Files folder, scroll down to 0408, Power of Pathfinder, and just click Open. To talk about the Pathfinder panel, first we're going to have to open it if it's not already open. So go under your Window menu to Object and Layout, Pathfinder. We're going to be discussing how the Pathfinder panel is used for combining shapes and also altering paths, shapes, and anchor points. We're going to start with the Paths section. Why don't we select this open path? I can tell it's open because the stroke is not going from this endpoint to this endpoint. To close it, all I have to do is click on Join Path. It's joining the two endpoints. This command can also be used to join two totally separate paths. What it's going to do is join the endpoints that are closest together. Let me click on the command, Join Path. The next button, I'm going to first select my yellow square, and I'm going to click Open Path. Let me go to my Zoom tool. You can hit your Z key to get there very quickly. And I'm just going to zoom in by clicking and dragging across that small section which I want to fill my screen. So it blew it up real big. And I can tell that it's no longer a closed path. If I click off of it, go to my Direct Selection tool and click on one of those endpoints and drag, you can see it's no longer closed. It's two separate points. Let me undo that. I'm just going to hit Command or Control Z to line up the 2 points again. If I click the next command, watch what happens. It's going to close the path. And you can see now it's actually a single point and my corner is complete because it is a closed path. Let me zoom out to fit my screen. I'm going to hit Command 0 or Control 0 on a PC. I can also use this to close this path. And you can see it adds the stroke to what used to be the open side of an open path. But what is this command about? Let me select the arrow with my selection tool and click Reverse Path to see what that does. There is a beginning and an end of any open path. Wherever you click first when you're creating this path is the beginning. Wherever you click last is the end. Now, I don't know about you, but about 2 seconds after I create a path, I forget where I clicked first. So this can be very helpful because it will actually reverse that path so the arrow is pointing the way I want it. And it's not just arrows, it's anything that you add to a path in the stroke panel. Let's talk a little bit about the Pathfinder. If I go to my selection tool and select these two squares, the one that's cyan with a stroke and the red one without the stroke. If I click on my first Pathfinder command, which is Add, it's going to combine the selected objects into one shape. Let me undo that by hitting Command Z or Control Z on a PC. The next command is Subtract. And what that's going to do is going to subtract the frontmost objects from the back object. And you can see it's taking a little chunk out of that back object. Let me undo that. The next command is Intersect. That's going to leave the intersection of the two objects and delete everything else. Let me undo that. The next command is Exclude. It's just the opposite of Intersect. If I click on that, wherever the two objects intersect, it's going to exclude that intersection, and you can see it's actually one object with a hole in the center. Let me undo that. The last Pathfinder is minus back. It's going to take the back red object and subtract it in the overlap from the front. So you can see it takes a chunk out of the front object using the back object. Let me undo that. The next command is Convert to Shape. First, I'm going to click on Convert Shape to Rectangle. And what it's going to do is create a rectangle the same size as the bounding box of my original circle. The next command is Convert Shape to Rounded Rectangle. Let me do that. And you can see it's picking up my corner options that I've used last. The next one is going to make a beveled rectangle, so you can see it's chopping off the corners. The next is going to do an inverse rounded rectangle, so it has rounded corners, but they're inverse, they're going inward. I'm going to skip the ellipse command for now, I'll come back to it, and click on the triangle, and you can see it's making a triangle that fits within my original bounding box. I can also make a polygon that fits within that bounding box, and I also can convert this shape to a line. I'm going to click on my blue square and make that into an ellipse. Now, let's talk about the convert anchor point area. I'm going to go to my direct selection tool, deselect the object, and then click on one of the points to reselect it. So I'm selecting just that one point. And if I click on the first command called plane, it's going to get rid of the direction handles, which basically means it's making it into a corner. Let me click on another point. If I click on the next command, it's going to make the handles independent. Let me click off of this object and reselect that one point, and you'll see, the handles are totally independent now. Let me go to the next command, which is going to make it so it's now a smooth curve. And you can see it's now smooth. Let me make one of those handles longer. And now click on the last command, which is going to make the handles symmetrical, so they're exactly the same length. So you can see now I have two long handles of equal length. There is another way to combine paths. Let me select, with my selection tool, my two circles, an inner circle and an outer circle. Obviously, the inner circle is in front. If I go under my object menu to path, I can make something called a compound path, which is two paths acting as one. And if I do that, it's using the top object to make a hole right through the bottom object. This is how, in typography, the centers of certain letters are actually holes, like the center of a P, or the center of an O, or a B. We're going to continue talking about frames and objects in the next lesson.